a world where we have everything and it's still not enough, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there's more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old push your way through and claim the deeper, more meaningful life that's calling you.
That's what we invite you to explore with us.
We're your hosts,
Stephanie Allen
and Maren. And
this
is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Yay!
Welcome back to the Soulful Leader Podcast. I'm Maren, and I'm here with Stephanie. And Stephanie and I did a podcast about a month ago, episode 164. It's called Expanding Time, and it talks a lot about rhythms and being in sync with your own rhythm and with the rhythm of those around you, including nature. And it got both of us thinking about our rhythm as a partnership, the Soulful Leader Partnership. And so one of the things that we wanted to talk about transitions today. Oftentimes when you start looking at your rhythms, you'll realize that you're out of rhythm or that a different rhythm is calling you, which means that now all of a sudden you're dealing with transitions. And, as we're moving from summer into winter, we have this transition that we call fall, where we're going from the height of yang energy to the height of yin energy. So all the outer, the excitement, the stuff that we do outside, to all the inner. And one of the things that Stephanie and I were just chatting about was the fact that we don't honor that as a culture. And we wonder why people tend to get sick in the fall, because we're not paying attention to the rhythms that are our natural rhythms.
We try to override them.
Yes.
Subvert them. We want to be in control.
Yeah.
So we override.
We value that outer go, go, go energy. And we don't value the rest, the downtime.
Yeah, for sure.
So when we start to move towards the longer nights and the inner time where it's colder, it's an annoyance to us. we don't, right?
Well, I have a funny story because I just had worked on a client who had this chronic neck pain. So first time working on him, and have some great movement. He, had some numbness in his hands and things like that. Started to work on it. Had some great relief. And then, this was just last week, and I saw him again today. And I said, "Hey, how's it been?" He goes, "Well, I have to tell you, I haven't stopped. I've done this and I've done that and I've gone here and I've done, I was building this and I was tearing that down and just go, 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 go." And then I'm working on him and he's like, "What else can I do?" I'm like, "Well, probably stop doing."
Meaning,
Actually.
What else can I do to heal this quicker?
Right, exactly. And I said, how about give yourself some space and time just to realign, to reconnect with a new rhythm that your body is being adapted to. And I say this because, there's that old saying, how we do one thing is how we do everything. Well, there's also that saying of how we begin something is how we live it. Also, how we end something is also how we move into the next. So these are the transitions. I think we look at the life in motion as being the most valuable, but it's actually the transition that sets you up. Either how you're transitioning out of something or transitioning into something. And yet so little time is paid, value to that transition. How do I want to be in that transition? What needs to happen?
Josh Waitzkin, there's a gentleman named Josh Waitzkin who is a chess master and also a several different martial arts master. And he wrote a book called The Art of Learning. And he's a learning master, really. And he talks about, I've seen a couple of videos of his on YouTube. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the show notes. He talks about, if you think of your life as the frames of, say, for example, a movie, right? So a movie is seamless because the frames are being played through, right? And each of the individual cells are it's a movie frame. And Josh talks about mastery, and true mastery are the people who can expand that space in between the frames so that they can do something that no one else can see, because we're only seeing the actual frames. And he references a match that he had, which was a championship match where his arm was actually broken. And in a moment, he had all of this space and he could see his opponent's fists coming at him. When you're watching the video, you can't see, they're moving so quickly, you can't see it. Time literally slowed down for him because he had worked on the transitions, those in between places. And he was able to win the match with one hand because he was able to expand those transitions.
Well, this is what creates mastery, right?
Yes.
It's like to be able to take something that you're working on and to actually slow it down, meaning taking it little bit by little bit and actually developing a very, very deep memory skill with it.
So I think I want to show everybody that you all have an experience of this. Some place where you're better at something than most people. And we all have some place that we're better at something than most people. And you watch somebody else do it and you want to stick your hand in there because they're going so slowly. You're like, oh my God, really? It's taking you that long? You want to take it away from them because you could do it in a third of the time, a quarter of the time, right? And that's what we mean by you have mastered the transitions of things, because it's not that they're doing it slowly, it's that they have to think about each of the actions, and those are the things between the actual actions, the thinking time.
And then repetition, how many times you've done something. You do it slowly at first when you first learn something.
Right.
And then you gently begin to speed it up until you crash again. And then you're like, okay, stop, reset. We did that all on our podcast of mistakes, and I'm starting to rewire it of saying there are no mistakes, only miracles.
Yeah.
Because every time there's something that gets messed up or broken or falls apart or whatever, oh, that wasn't so skillful or that wasn't so elegant, then it gives me a chance to create that space to reset and realign it. And I think most of us, like coming back to that transitions, many of us don't honor those transitions. So we just keep running forward. And there's a huge cost to that because we don't really drop in and learn from our past. And I think it's so important that we learn skill sets from our past, but we also need to look at where we're going in the future, and we need to hold both and to constantly stay in the transition. And what I mean by that is like you're holding two opposite things on either end, the past and the future, and you are in the middle. You're in the present moment.
Present.
Yeah, and you're not trying to control one or the other. You're not trying to justify what happened in the past. You're looking at it as an observer, really of both. And then saying, okay, what needs to transition right now within me? What needs to change? What needs to be different? How do I need my attitude? The way my boundaries, my internal boundaries, the way I'm speaking to myself or thinking about myself or another. All those things, there's so much that is to do in that transition.
There's also, and the reason that we're sharing all of this with you all today is because this is where Stephanie and I are, is we're in our own transition. We are going to move from, we've started to pay attention to our rhythm and the past, what we've learned from it, who we've become, and the future of where is it leading us to, asking us to go and being present to that, so that we're not just a cork floating on the river going, oh, but we're supposed to keep doing it this way because that's what we're told and the commitment and right? Which has been important, and that has led us to where we are. And we've grown to the point where we now are looking at a different rhythm, which is instead of a weekly rhythm for our podcast, we're going to twice a month rhythm for our podcast. So that's going to start next week. And for us, what that will allow us is more time to work with you, our clients, more time for the impact that we want to have on the planet, which for both Stephanie and I, we're feeling called to do more talks, and we need time to work on those and actually be able to get out there on stages. And then also possibly even writing some books and taking some of the information from the last 3 years. We've been doing this over 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful practice for us. So our practice will continue. It just will look different and our rhythm is different. So we are being present to the transitions. And that's something that we do regularly so that we're always reevaluating. And I know most businesses do a reevaluate. I hope most businesses do a reevaluation.
And I think you're seeing something really key, like very key here, because when we think of goals, we're not being guided from, okay, what we want to make happen, the books, the working with clients. Yes, we want that to happen, of course, but it's really our why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And what is calling from our future for us to do? Not trying to figure it out, but being present as a practice of because it's so easy, like you said, we can just stick with something forever and ever because we said we're going to do it. And then we willfully do it instead of being willing to what wants to happen and making that space.
There's the both end. There is the commitment to what we said. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's the listening to when that changes.
Right.
And when I say listening, it's not handing it over and saying, oh, it's what wants to happen. I have no say in the matter. We're talking about a co-creation. And when you co-create, so say, for example, Stephanie and I are co-creating something. So, of course, I want to have regular conversations with Stephanie about what that looks like for her, what it looks like for me, et cetera, et cetera. There's another being, which is life. And Stephanie and I intentionally co-create with life and spirit to see what's that piece. Mm-hmm. The other thing that is, I guess, a part of our creation process is each of us has a why that we're here, a life mission, a reason we were incarnated on this planet at this time.
Every single being. Every single one of you are listening right now.
Absolutely. And so Stephanie and I have been working with this for over 20 years. And so we're very clear that this being, this part of ourselves, is an actual being and helps to guide us. And so we include that in our co-creation process. So there's all of these things that we're present to that help guide us forward. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're talking about the transitions of we can't just plow forward constantly, even though our society has taught us to do that. So it's been an unlearning process for us.
I was just going to say that we have to unlearn that learning. And I say this to myself and to others too. I'm like, what happens when most of us go on a vacation and we sit on the beach or we hit golf balls or whatever we do on vacation? I mean, I just came off a time at my cottage, which is lovely. And sitting in that transition is not easy. It's uncomfortable because we're so conditioned to do and do and do that just to sit there. And I mean, sit there, not sit there and read, not sit there and do practices, not sit there and talk. Sit there. There is so much that comes up in that space. Icky feelings.
I remember one of my spiritual teachers, gosh, this was 20 years ago. He said to me, you have to be able to sit and do nothing. And it was both me and my mom who were working with him at the time. And we were like, that's nuts. Sit and do not. What? What's the benefit of that? Who can do that? Like, it was such a foreign concept. And it stuck with me, obviously, for 20 years. And I now know the value of that.
Well, I think coming back to what you said, why people get sick during the transition, you know, they're called shoulder seasons. We tend to call them shoulder seasons. And that's, as a body worker, that's when I see a lot of shoulder injuries, is that transition. Like they're shouldering something, the shoulda, coulda, woulda, ought tos, or they're carrying something, or, you know, it's a shoulder season to actually either pick something up or let something down.
Yeah.
And to be with that
we're
healing.
pushing through it.
Yeah. Constantly. So sometimes we get sick, or we have pain, or we have a heartbreak, because it's opening us to actually do no thing and just be with that transition, to see what's transpiring, what's coming up.
I also think that, you know, it's like nature herself kind of goes to sleep at this time of year, and, you know, like slows down. Instead of saying goes to sleep, slows down. She slows down, and we're like, nope, gonna keep going, push. And so she's like, maybe not. And so we get sick, so that we have to slow down. And now we have a quote unquote reason. I'm sick, I have to slow down. Well, good for you. And there's another option. You can build that into your rhythm, build the transitions into your rhythm, so that you don't have to get sick in order to have a justification for taking time.
And also, that time that you are now investing in is a time to actually look at unpacking things and unlearning, so that you don't keep repeating the same patterns, which, by the way, won't give you the same results. It actually makes them worse half the time, unless they're patterns you want to incorporate, which actually will make things better. But we still need that time to just evaluate, marinate. I call it marination, you know, compost, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's kind of how I look at it, is like, okay, I'm marinating right now.
Yeah.
I'm giving myself flavor, so that I can choose what to let go of and what to pick up, and build a skill with it.
And that's lovely. I love the way that you said that, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're choosing what to lay down, what to pick up. We are not laying down the Soulful Leader podcast. We will be continuing. It's just that we're going every other week, so that we can pick up some additional things that we're being called to. Like I said, books and talks and working with more clients. So if you are interested in booking us for a talk, or want to work with us, certainly reach out to us, because we actually will have a little bit more space in our schedule exactly for that, because that's what's being asked of us. So thank you guys for being a part of us. And just like always, we would love to know what's on your minds. What would you like to have us talk about on the next Soulful Leader podcast, or maybe, you know, further into the future? You can reach us on social media at The Soulful Leaders. You can find us on our Soulful Leader podcast website, which is thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com, or our business website, which is tslp.life. We'll see you next week. Oh, I won't be able to say that again. But for this week, we will see you next week on the Soulful Leader podcast.
And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader podcast with your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslack. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.